This is Duke University.
My name is Erdağ Göknar. I'm the director of the Duke University Middle East Studies Center, and I have the pleasure today to be here with Nobel laureate in literature, Orhan Pamuk. We've been having a series of events around his visit to Duke University, and so we're going to continue the conversation here with some questions about your work, your 9 novels, and the place of Istanbul in those novels. Could you give us a sense of the significance of the city to your novel writing?
Actually, like all authors, all my life, I wrote about human beings. And a novelist and a fiction writer wants to express humanity. But I came across humanity in Istanbul, and I realized that I'm an Istanbul writer after my books begin to get translated and international critics refer to Istanbul. Then I begin to get self-conscious about being an Istanbul writer because I was indirectly so. I wrote about I wrote my memoirs and a sort of an essay book about the town called Istanbul Memoirs and the city. That book is about living at the edge of Europe, being and still being poor, the feeling that this is a sort of fate and a sort of a black and white feeling of sadness, perhaps related to also a feeling of resignation because of poverty too. But then the whole atmosphere and that feeling had changed in the last 15 years because of immense economical growth and the rise of economic and demographic rise of the city. Now Istanbul is a city of 16 million, and I chronicled this change in my new novel, A Strangeness in My Mind, a story of a street vendor and the story of the change and modernization in Istanbul in the last 35, 40 years.
So the memoir in Istanbul is a wonderful work because it kind of is a depiction of it's a portrait of the artist in the city. It gives both a sense of your coming to literature as well as the important place of the city in forming your idea about literature. You also have that wonderful image in the film by Grant Gee where you say, sometimes when I'm falling asleep, it feels as if my arms are the streets of Istanbul. Could you talk a little bit about that?
In this novel, A Strangeness in My Mind, I chronicle the change of the city through the eyes of a street vendor. And streets are important in Strangeness in My Mind. My character follows every change, every little detail, in the other street vendors, people walking by, people who are buying food. Strangeness in My Mind chronicles the change in Istanbul through the eyes of a street vendor.
So when we talk about the perspective of the street vendor, it's not immediately evident that there's a political themes that are involved there, but what emerges is that there is a change in balance. For example, the wonderful scene early in the novel where Mevlut is called up to serve boza to a party of secular Turks, and a very interesting conversation ensues. And beneath the conversation is the sense that the political balance in Turkey and Istanbul is changing.
A Strangeness in My Mind is not a deliberately political novel, though it chronicles the political aspects of modernization and immigration to the city. My character, Mevlut Karataş, has political ideas, but they are not strong. Mevlut is friendly with his cousin and his uncles, and they are ultra right-wing, and they help him in settling in the city. Also, he has Turkish Shia Alevi friends who are leftist, socialist, and secular. Also, he attends the practices of a sheikh who runs a sort of a modern dervish lodge. If Mevlut had strong political opinions, he wouldn't be navigating in the city through these different political circles. The fact that he doesn't have strong political and moral ideas is also related to the that he wants to survive. He needs the help of other people, and he manages all of these people, thus paving way for the story to go to different corners of Istanbul and pushing the story. I wanted to write a story in which all the political, cultural, religious, ethnic, contradictory groups in Istanbul that I want to cover. So I invented a character who is optimistic, well-meaning, and who is not much too argumentative in many sense. Mevlut Karataş, the character of Strangeness in my mind, is an everyman, while I gave a lot of energy rendering his humanity or his marriage life, his sexuality, the way he marries, the way he talks to his wife and children. Strangeness in my mind also chronicles the friendship of Mevlut Karataş with his wife over 30 years.
So there's this wonderful tension in the novel between what you identify as niyet or intent and kısmet or fate. Can you talk a little bit about the tension between those?
The novel takes place in a repressed society where people will not say their private opinions too easily. And that's why there's all this rhetoric and jokes about not telling the truth to especially government and people you don't know. I argue that the severe difference between one's private or opinions and public expressions is due to the fact that the society is in many ways repressed.
So we talked a little bit about the emotional tenor of Istanbul, the place of hüzün. Starting in novels like My Name is Red and Snow, there's an emergence of a kind of a different emotional tenor, which is happiness or the attainment of happiness, and we see it again here in A Strangeness in My Mind. Could you talk a little bit about the tension between those two? Yeah.
Novels are about novels have secret hierarchies about what's important in life. We read a novel not only to enjoy other people's lives, but also see the novelist's sense of what is important in life, is friendship or economical benefit or jealousy, the relationship of emotions between each other. And in that way, like my previous novels, A Strangeness in My Mind is an also exploration of what is valuable, what is dear, what is ideal and morally important in life. Is it friendship, jealousy, family, happiness, a commitment to a cause, political values that are important for Mevlut? It's making ends meet. For 40 years, my character, Mevlut Karataş, wants to survive in a city, wants to make money. Sometimes he's successful, but never as successful as his cousins and other friends. The book chronicles the growing, immense economical development of Istanbul and the differences that various families make, comparing them to each other, comparing them to moral and political attitudes.
So let me conclude with a question about coming back to the title and this concept of strangeness, which is so interesting, the way it emerges in the novel in different ways. Can you talk to us about this strangeness and the perspective that brings?
Strangeness in My Mind is also about the romantic imagination of my character, who sells boza in the back streets of Istanbul in 1970s, 80s, and 1990s. The mysterious shadows he sees in the back streets, the old wooden houses, two, three-story houses, poor back streets, black and white, a sort of a feeling of black and white, the shadows. His immense imagination lends a meaning to these mysterious movements where leaves of a tree move when there is no wind, where he suspects an emergence of packs of dogs as he is also walking under the snow in a very cold night. So I both chronicle the immense economical hardship with humor and also try to render the richness, the imaginative visions that my character sees as he tries to sell boza in Istanbul between 1970 and early 2000s.
It's a wonderful novel. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.